Hi all, Mr. Thomas here, and welcome to another... Hey, hold on. Hello?
Mr. Thomas, is it okay if I copy your homework?
Yeah, sure. You can copy it, just change it up a little bit so no one notices.
Extraordinary.
Okay, cool. See you later. Hi all, Mr. Thomas here, and welcome to the very first episode of Into the Question Matrix. Into the Question Matrix is a fortnightly show where you can ask me questions about things like the content we've covered, teaching and video making, or even just random things that you're curious about. I mean, what kind of teacher would I be if I couldn't take questions? So, with that said, let's begin today's video. A question matrix is a tool designed to help teachers ask more difficult questions. It's supposed to foster higher order thinking. Check out Bloom's taxonomy. And I've used a question matrix in every single lesson I've ever taught. Every 2 weeks, a new episode of Into the Question Matrix is going to be published. So, if you have any questions, feel free to send them in. You can send them to me in a video format by uploading them to Twitter and then mentioning me, or sending them as a direct message on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @MrThomasLM. There is a link in the description below. Or you could just write them out. You could do so by either typing them up in the comment section of any of my videos, or just do what you did with the other two. Just send them to me in a direct message on Twitter or @me on Twitter. I look forward to hearing some of your questions, and there's imaginary commendations up for grabs if your questions follow the design of the question matrix. So, can't wait. As this is my first ever episode and my viewership is currently a little bit smaller, I decided to take this as a chance to ask my friends and family to send in questions to ask me. So, here are the questions they asked. Our first question comes from my friend Chris, who asked, how do crystals like quartz or amethyst form? In its simplest terms, crystals are the crystalline form of silicon dioxide, or SiO2. Crystals can form in a whole variety of ways. Quartz forms in most igneous rocks. As the magma cools, the silicon dioxide crystallizes. Much like how water crystallizes into ice, silicon dioxide crystallizes into quartz as it cools. Generally, the longer the magma takes to cool, the larger the quartz crystals will be. Another way quartz can form is from silica-rich water. At high temperatures and high pressure, silica can dissolve into water, much like how sugar dissolves into tea. However, as soon as the pressure or the temperature drop, the water becomes saturated, and so the quartz crystals begin to form. Now onto amethyst, which is a variety of quartz and has been admired by humans for millennia. The ancient Greeks and Romans believed that amethyst prevented people from becoming intoxicated. They even made drinking vessels out of it. The Greek word amethystos can actually be translated into not drunk. A meaning not and methustos meaning intoxicated. The exact chemical composition of amethyst is still up for debate. All we know currently is that amethyst is composed of silicon dioxide, as are all quartz varieties. However, there is some impurity that gives it that vivid purple colour. It's the nature of the impurity that is still unknown. The most likely candidates for that impurity are ferric iron or a mix of aluminium and iron. So great question, Chris. Really good work. Though, here's a question for you to take your learning further. What impurities can be found within rose quartz, and what is it about the impurities that allow them to change the colour of the crystals? So on to the next question from Tomasz, who asks...
Hey, what's up, Luke? I was wondering if you could just explain the whole COVID-19 situation a little bit. Cheers.
COVID-19 is an incredibly infectious disease that stems from SARS-CoV-2, which stands for Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome, Coronavirus 2. It sounds like the least fun sequel ever, like Coronavirus 2 Electric Boogaloo. The virus is a novel coronavirus. Novel meaning new, that we've never seen it before, and coronavirus being a family of viruses that have a particular appearance. Coronaviruses have bulbous protrusions on their exterior, much like how the sun has coronal mass ejections, hence the name coronavirus. This strain of coronavirus is believed to have originated from the Wuhan province in China, hence why it's sometimes called the Wuhan virus. It's also believed that it has a zoonotic origin, meaning that it came from animals. The COVID-19 strain has a similar genetic structure to coronaviruses found within bats, suggesting that it emerged from a bat-borne variation. It has also been suggested that this variation of coronavirus has jumped from bats to pangolins and then to humans. Given the large illegal trade of animals within China and the pangolin's unfortunate title as the most trafficked animal in the world, this is a theory that has some merit. As I've already stated, coronavirus is incredibly infectious. Worldwide, there have been 2.4 million cases and 170,000 deaths. This equates to a mortality rate of around 7%. For comparison, the common flu has a mortality rate of about 1%. I just want to pause there and say that the figures surrounding the mortality rate of the common flu isn't something that's exactly agreed upon. Depending on which source you go to, it will say a different thing. However, from the multiple sources that I looked at, the general consensus is that it is 1%. As we currently don't have a vaccine or a cure for this strain of the coronavirus, other measures have been implemented to try and minimize the spread of the virus. The measure that we're probably all most familiar with is the lockdown. So lockdown works by removing people from the chain of infection. By staying at home, you prevent yourself from getting the virus and you prevent other people getting the virus. Behind me is a simple diagram representing the spread of COVID-19. It is currently believed that for every one person that gets infected, they will go on to spread the disease to 2 more people. So with 5 tiers of infection, we start with 1 and end up with 31. I can't do 31 on just one hand. That's a lot of people. Now, if we pick 5 people at random to stay in lockdown, you can see that in each of the 3 scenarios that are considerably less infected in the end. So the lesson I can teach you is simple. Stay at home. Don't go out unless it's essential and break the chain of infection. Okay, now time to cheer it back up. Need to cheer it back up. We just talked about coronavirus. People are dying and I'm making YouTube videos. Oh my god, the world is really dark at the moment. But Mr. Thomas is on the case with a little bit of smiles on a little bit of face. I don't know what that was. Okay, so my next video comes from my girlfriend Paige, who asks...
Okay, so my question is, how did Hawaii form and what type of volcanoes are in Hawaii?
Here's the short answer. Hawaii is a chain of islands created by hotspot volcanism. This is where a particular region of volcanic activity is fed from underlying magma that is anonymously hot compared to the magma that surrounds it. The hotspot itself is in a fixed location. However, the plates above it are not. Check out my video. Plug time. Plug time. Plug time. Plug time. It's plug time. It's plug time. He's going to talk about another video. Check out my video on tectonic plate boundaries to learn a little bit more about tectonic plate movement. As the plates move, the newly formed islands are dragged away from the hotspot, making room for newer islands to be formed, hence forming a chain. This means that you can use the distance between the islands and the volcanic hotspot to measure the movement of the tectonic plate. As for the volcanoes, Hawaii is home to 5 major volcanoes: Mauna Loa, Mauna Kea, Kilale, Hulale, and Kohala. I don't know if that was right. The pronunciation is probably butchered, so forgive me. Each of these volcanoes is a shield volcano. This means that rather than having the steep sides like we typically imagine, they have gentler slopes and they release a more fluid lava. The lava is more fluid because it contains less silica than that of composite volcanoes. That's the other type. I'm actually aiming to do a video on volcanoes in the coming weeks, so stay tuned for that because I'll be talking about all this in even more detail in like 2 or 3 weeks. Thank you, Paige. That was a great question. Here's my question back to you. Mauna Kea is actually the most active volcano in the world. So, why is it so active? What gives it its volatility? The next question comes from Leighton, who asks...
How are volcanoes in the world?
Okay, so there are 1,500 active volcanoes on Earth. not including the clusters of volcanic activity that occur on the seafloor. Though 500 of those active volcanoes have erupted at least once in our recorded history. So here are some notable volcanoes for you. Mount Tambora erupted in 1815 and is considered to be the most powerful volcanic eruption in human history. Mauna Loa is the most active volcano on the planet, and Mauna Kea is actually the tallest volcano on the planet at about 4,400 meters. So that was a great question, Leighton. Here's my question back to you. Which volcano famously erupted in 79 AD? Okay, on to our last question. This video is a really long video. I've been recording for about an hour 20 at this point. Yay! So Tavy asks, how applicable are Rosenshine's principles of teaching and instruction in the modern classroom? Nice, easy question. Thanks, Tavy. So for those of you that don't know, Rosenshine's principles are a set of, principles that essentially lead to better teaching outcomes and introduce cognitive science into the classroom. I do believe that successful implementation of Rosenshine's principles within your teaching can improve the understanding of content and the recollection of previously learned content. In fact, I do actually recommend that any trainee teacher or teacher that hasn't tried to implement them yet, to give it a go. I'd begin with a read of Rosenshine's Principles in Action by Tom Sherrington. It's a great read, I really recommend it. So here's my question back to you, Tavy. It involves a little bit of criticality, which goes a long way, especially at master's level. So let's just say that you thought Rosenshine's Principles are no longer applicable within the modern classroom. What would you change or what would you amend in the principles that would allow them to get better outcomes in lessons? Hopefully that one's not too hard. And so that ends today's look into the question matrix. I'm really thankful for all my friends and family who submitted questions for me to answer, and I really, really look forward to answering some more questions in 2 weeks' time. If you have any questions to ask at all, please don't hesitate. They can be on anything you'd like. Geography, science, teaching, video making, current affairs, what I had for dinner last night. Okay, maybe not that last one, but the rest are good. So, if you have any questions, all you need to do is post them in the comment section of any of my videos, or send them to me on Twitter by either direct messaging me or @ing me, @Mr. Thomas LM is my Twitter handle. Or if you really want to push the boat out there, film yourself asking a question and then send it to me on Twitter by either @ing me or direct messaging me. Cool. I'm really looking forward to hearing from some of you. So, with that said, it's time to end today's video. It's time to pack up, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next lesson. Dismissed.